And speaking of the truth, is it true that Donald Trump is a unique threat to science? And will this song be the cure?
This is a song for all the good people. Come on.
I know I should have given you a cringe alert there, but I wanted you to endure that song just like I had to. But what you saw right there is the rally to defend science, and a group of people gathered together last week in order to protest Donald Trump and Doge, who is taking money away from research grants and funding to certain scientific endeavors, many of which have DEI imperatives. And it gathered what one report said, over 1,000 people. That's right, over 1,000 people gathered around the world for this amazing event. That's all that they could muster around the world, is 1,000 people to stand up for science against Donald Trump and Doge, who is defunding certain research experiments and grants that are going to a number of different things, including all sorts of DEI prerogatives. So there's a group of people that spoke at this event that I want to try to highlight for you to show you the substance of this event. So first, let's hear a clip from Bill Nye, the science guy.
Over there, my friends, is the U.S. Capitol. To the other side, the side restricting access to scientific reports, scientific data and resources. We ask, what are you afraid of? What is it about the process of science, modern medicine, caring for our neighbors, or Women's History Month that you all find so scary?
I hate to admit it to you, Nye, but it isn't Women's History Month that's scary. It's the bow tie. Makes me think of Pee Wee Herman, and those are kind of childhood memories that I'd like to put behind me. Anyhow, I think it's worth mentioning, first off, before we dig into the claim here, that Bill Nye standing up to defend science is absolutely hysterical. And here's why. Because Bill Nye is a scientific naturalist. Now, there is no more intellectually benighted position in the scientific community than scientific naturalism, especially of the stripe that wants to say that we have evidence that proves that God doesn't exist. Specifically because perhaps there is no more great cosmological finding in recent history, if not in all of scientific history, than the Big Bang, which is the view that most people hold in terms of the origin of the universe. And, well, I noticed that there isn't a single scientific naturalist that is an atheist that has been able to prove how the Big Bang could take place without God. I've also noticed that the incessant desire to try to prove that somehow Darwinian evolution accounts for how human beings came into existence, you know, a conscious, intelligent being from a non-conscious mechanical process. The whole idea that we came from some primordial soup and that vertebrate life can come from invertebrate life is something that is completely scientifically void of any evidence whatsoever. So science has yet to come up with a causal agent better than God, and the more we find out about science, the more we are pushed towards the fact that there is an intelligent designer to this universe and to us as human beings. I'll also mention the fact that thoroughgoing atheist Lee Cornyn said this, that origin of life science is a total scam. You know why he said that? Because it is. Every single scientific experiment that has been done to try to prove how life could come about through natural processes has been either completely fabricated and made up, or so in other words, atheistic scientific naturalism does not have a causal agent that even comes close to proving any of its claims. So much for science and Bill Nye standing up for it. But pushing all that aside, the claim here is simply that Donald Trump is a threat to science. Well, is that true? Let's hear from our next speaker to figure out if he's got a better argument.
Now ask yourself, why are they doing this? Why would they do this? It's for the same reason the Inquisition imprisoned Galileo. It is the same reason that Einstein had to flee Hitler's Germany. It's because science is independent. Science
independent of billionaires.
It's because science doesn't always give the answers that power wants.
Oh, please, science is independent. You know, I would love to hear what this individual would say if I said, hey, you know, everything in science shows us that homosexuality is far inferior to heterosexuality, and transgenderism actually isn't a thing. Now, of course, what would he do? He would do exactly what Neil deGrasse Tyson does every single time he talks on this subject. He would defend it endlessly because of the science, right? So committed to science are they that they believe that Donald Trump defunding some of their research experiments means that he is fully committed to an inquisition of sorts, that science will be the very next group of people who are martyrs in the present. Well, I've got news for you. The fact that you think science is independent is, let's just say, stupid! Because we all know that science, especially after 2020, is largely in the pocket of big funders like Big Pharma. Now, perhaps to put this in the greatest perspective is to show you the evangelical Christian darling, Francis Collins, who was present with his guitar to wow and amaze every single one of us with his amazing new song that is sure to put Donald Trump in his place.
This noble dream. Have you got that? So it's just all the good people, but the second line, part of this family, and the last line, we're joined together by this noble dream. Do that with me. This is a song for all the good people. Come on. All the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble dream. Well, this is a song for all of those dreamers. We're looking for answers to come our way. Scientists, doctors, students, all seekers. We share in the hopes for a much brighter day. Come on now. Well, this is a song for all the good people. All the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble.
Now, I dare you, as a scientific experiment, to put that song on loop on your playlist and not go insane. We'll see. Just see what it does to your human flourishing, since atheists love to talk about human flourishing. What I might want to mention to you right here is Francis Collins is a truly brilliant man, and he was responsible for mapping the human genome, at least was one of the scientists in that experiment, which revealed once and for all the complexity of human life in such a way that we will never go back to viewing humanity as just merely a process of millions of years of evolution, period. Now, if you type in the Human Genome Project into Google, of course you're going to hear that it provides no conclusive proof for God, but obviously really does provide a lot of conclusive proof for evolution. But the point of fact, the Human Genome Project and mapping the human genome actually revealed to us that human DNA is essentially a code. That's why we call it that it has information. And as Bill Gates himself said, wherever you have information, you can infer intelligence. So what the Human Genome Project actually did was prove beyond much of a shadow of a doubt that God exists. It's yet another evidence, let's at least safely say this, it's yet more evidence to the fact that human beings are made complex and therefore must needs be created by intelligence. But my, oh my, how far the apple falls from the tree. Because in Francis Collins, we see once and for all that all of the claims of science and making sure that we endlessly fund research grants that go to any number of atrocities actually may not be the best use of taxpayer dollars, because Collins approved research for sewing aborted baby scalps onto lab rats. When he was the director of the NIH, he approved $3 million in research grants for the University of Pittsburgh, who admitted to using the money to remove the kidneys from born alive babies while their hearts were still beating. Of course, he has record-level spending on scientific experimentation performed on fetuses obtained from abortions, endorsement of unrestricted funding for embryonic stem research, millions of dollars in taxpayer grants spent on transgender research on minors, opposite-sex hormone treatments given to children as young as 8 years old, mastectomies performed on girls as young as 13 years old, and perhaps the most disgusting of all, millions of dollars in grants to an app program that tracked teenage boys' homosexual activities, including anal sex, all without parental knowledge. Now ask yourself what business a Christian has funding any of that nonsense, but then also ask yourself, if the apple won't fall far from the tree in terms of a Christian doing those kind of things, then what might science do if it is unrestrained, especially if it has plenty of money to do whatever it wants to do, but no moral philosophy undergirding it? And this is why Donald Trump is defunding so many of the things that are going on right now in the quote-unquote scientific community, simply because they are conducting experiments on things that are not in the best interests of the American people. And I would argue one step further, that not only is Donald Trump holding them fiscally responsible, but something's been happening in science for a long time that is important to know. Atheism has absolutely flooded the sciences and has become a sort of a agenda for atheists in order to promote their cause. So activism has become the real goal of so much of what is going on in modern day science. And that is at least disturbing, not only in what I already showed you what science can actually do if it is unrestrained by moral philosophy, but also I hope we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that science must have something to pull it back into its real purpose, into its good causes. And I would argue that the thing to do that is Christianity, because Christianity stripped away from science actually has been a world of wickedness. The best historical explanation I can think to give you is this, is that a guy named Thomas Müntzer came along shortly after Luther's Reformation, and he wanted to create, based upon what Luther said and did, a revolt against the elites of his day. And Müntzer decided that the way he would do that is through creating a revolt among the people to violently fight back against the aristocracy. Now, Luther had to come out of hiding to fight back against this nonsense, and he vehemently, unapologetically opposed Müntzer's ideas, saying even that a frog needs a stork. In other words, that there are people that have benefited me and benefit all of us, and we shouldn't vilify people just simply because they have a lot of money. Sorry, socialists. The point is that somebody was willing to take the great things that were done in the Reformation and prostitute them and pollute them and twist them until they totally looked vastly different than what Luther ever intended. In other words, you can hijack a movement and you can hijack science. One thing I know for sure is this, is that moral principles undergird everything we do. Even if you're making up your own moral principles on the fly and you totally reject Christianity, well, trust me, everybody's worshiping something, and you're worshiping something in the moral philosophies that you hold to. The real question is, what is the best principles that will hold our society together for the long run? In unmitigated spending, in unmitigated experiments on all sorts of atrocious things without the moral principles of Christianity holding us together will certainly lead to some bad results. Now, I understand. Just simply saying that science in the past has done bad things means that science is bad is a non sequitur. It's not what I'm arguing, any more than you should argue that just because there were certain quote-unquote Christians in the Crusades and they did bad things, that the Crusades were bad. Because I think it doesn't take much to dispel that ridiculous myth that the Crusades were just simply about land grabs, that actually there was a redemptive good that came out of the Crusades, unless, of course, you wish that the West had been colonized by militant Muslims, which you don't. Now, I am just arguing simply this, that if moral principles undergird everything that we do, that it's time for us to realize that the greatest moderator for society in the West in the past has been Christianity, and we better hold fast to it yet again, or else we'll complain about more than just being defunded from certain atrocious experiments. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If the show was beneficial to you, then you will get a lot out of becoming a member over at indiethinker.org/support, where you can gain exclusive perks and extras like ebooks, audiobooks, and movies. Don't forget to check our sponsors down below, but most importantly, go with God.